Welcome, I'm Rachel Maddow. Tonight we're looking at a moment of profound geopolitical turbulence, one where old alliances are being questioned, new ones are being tested, and the war in Ukraine continues to shape global politics in ways that are anything but settled. In the middle of all this, former President Donald Trump's renewed posture toward Russia is drawing intense scrutiny. Despite years of denying any inappropriate ties, recent shifts in rhetoric and an unusually warm response from the Kremlin to the Trump team's evolving national security signals have raised fresh questions about the direction of U.S. foreign policy. At the same time, Washington is pressuring Ukraine to advance a peace framework, and political leaders at home are debating whether continued funding for Kyiv should remain a priority at all. It's a pivotal moment, with implications that could reshape international alignments for years to come. The Kremlin's response to U.S. strategy? The publication of a new U.S. national security document prompted an unusually warm response from Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, who described the strategy as encouraging and broadly aligned with Russian geopolitical thinking. His statement marked a rare moment of positive public sentiment from Moscow regarding Washington's policy direction. According to Peskov, certain adjustments within the U.S. document mirror Russia's preference for sustained dialogue and a pragmatic approach to easing tensions. Though careful to avoid overstating the potential for immediate breakthroughs, he indicated that the strategy might create space for improved communication between the two nations. At the same time, he cautioned that resistance within American institutions, what he framed as bureaucratic inertia, could complicate efforts to achieve a more conciliatory relationship, a view that reflects a long-running theme in Russian commentary about internal U.S. political divisions. Despite this cautious optimism, the broader international community remains watchful, aware that any warming between Washington and Moscow may carry significant implications for NATO, the European Union, and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Diplomatic pressure and the Ukraine peace push. Against this diplomatic backdrop, U.S. officials have signaled that negotiations aimed at ending the war in Ukraine are reaching a critical stage. Keith Kellogg, the outgoing American envoy for Ukraine, recently remarked that the effort is within the last 10 meters, suggesting that a potential framework is nearly complete. The remaining issues, territorial disagreements, and the status of key infrastructure, such as the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, remain deeply sensitive for both Kyiv and Moscow. Diplomatic sources, however, caution that despite U.S. optimism, neither side is currently prepared to sign the proposed agreement. Over the past week, a wave of shuttle diplomacy has taken place, involving high-level American envoys, private sector figures with established contacts abroad, and senior Ukrainian officials. Delegations have traveled between Moscow, Florida, and European capitals in an effort to narrow differences. Following these meetings, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky participated in a lengthy and reportedly difficult phone call with U.S. representatives, during which discussions centered on avoiding future escalation and securing long-term safety for Ukraine. Zelensky has publicly emphasized that Ukraine remains committed to negotiating in good faith, even as tensions over security guarantees underscore the enormous stakes involved in any potential settlement. The challenge of security guarantees, the central obstacle in these negotiations, continues to be the question of security assurances for Ukraine. With the war approaching its fourth year, Kyiv seeks firm protections against future aggression, protections that ideally would involve military commitments from the United States and key European allies. Yet there is increasing uncertainty over whether Washington or European capitals can realistically provide the kind of robust, long-term backing Ukraine is seeking, particularly if any peace agreement requires the country to relinquish territory currently occupied by Russian forces. Questions loom over whether foreign troops could be stationed in Ukraine, whether air defense systems would be permanently deployed, and whether Western governments would be willing to outline clear consequences for possible violations of a future agreement. Ukrainian officials argue that without enforceable guarantees, any settlement risks becoming merely a pause that allows Russia to regroup. Their concern reflects years of lived experience, as prior agreements intended to protect Ukraine did not prevent Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. For Kyiv, entering a deal without solid protections is viewed as unacceptable, both strategically and morally. Political rhetoric and U.S. domestic pressures. While formal negotiators have worked through customary diplomatic channels, the tone of commentary within the broader Trump political orbit has grown increasingly pointed. At a recent forum in Doha, Donald Trump Jr. delivered a wide-ranging critique of the war and argued that the United States should reconsider its level of involvement. Though he holds no official government position, his comments are influential within conservative political circles. His speech included criticism of European leaders, questions about the efficacy of sanctions, and expressions of frustration with the financial burden the conflict imposes on Western governments. He also suggested that the U.S. must focus more intently on domestic security challenges. While his remarks reflect a broader debate within American politics about international commitments, they also risk complicating delicate diplomatic efforts by signaling divisions within influential U.S. factions. Observers note that such rhetoric can embolden hardline positions on both sides of the conflict, potentially making compromise more difficult. Nevertheless, it underscores the reality that domestic political dynamics in the United States continue to shape the trajectory of American foreign policy. European allies under growing strain. Amid uncertainty regarding U.S. support, Ukraine has increasingly turned to its European partners for reassurance and concrete assistance. President Zelensky recently met with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in a crucial four-way summit in London. The gathering highlighted the growing responsibility placed on Europe as questions emerge about Washington's long-term role. European leaders face the complex challenge of balancing their support for Ukraine with domestic pressures, economic constraints, and the shifting political landscape across the continent. Many European governments worry that if the United States reduces its involvement, they will be compelled to assume far greater financial and security obligations. The stakes are enormous, as the war's outcome will shape Europe's strategic environment for decades. While London, Paris, and Berlin remain committed to supporting Ukraine, there is rising concern that they may not possess the capacity militarily or economically to fully replace American leadership at a time when Russia continues to exert sustained military pressure. Europe's strategic anxiety? Beyond the immediate battlefield consequences, a broader sense of unease has spread across European capitals as they confront the possibility of a long-term shift in U.S. foreign policy. The Trump administration's national security strategy contains sharp critiques of the European Union, describing it as a bloc facing internal challenges that may undermine its global influence. Coupled with gestures toward closer dialogue with Moscow, these signals have raised alarm among European policymakers who fear the erosion of the transatlantic alliance that has underpinned European security since World War II. For decades, Europe has relied on the United States as its primary security guarantor, particularly against potential aggression from Russia. The prospect of an American pivot that deprioritizes NATO and embraces a more transactional foreign policy leaves many European governments feeling exposed. Leaders in London, Paris, and Berlin are now forced to grapple not only with the ongoing war to their east, but also with the possibility that the strategic foundation of the continent, its partnership with the United States, may be undergoing a profound transformation. The uncertain road ahead. Taken together, these developments paint a picture of an international system in flux. The war in Ukraine remains unresolved, and diplomatic efforts to secure a durable peace face substantial obstacles. The United States and Russia are cautiously exploring areas where dialogue may be possible, even as mistrust persists. European nations are navigating both internal challenges and external threats, all while trying to determine how to safeguard their security interests in a world where American policy may be shifting. For Ukraine, the path forward is exceptionally difficult. The country must defend its sovereignty, sustain its people through harsh winter conditions, and negotiate from a position that ensures its long-term safety. For global leaders, the moment demands clarity, cooperation, and the political courage to pursue stability without compromising fundamental principles. As commentators, journalists, and independent media continue to follow these fast-moving events, one truth remains clear. The story is far from over, and the decisions made in the coming months will shape the future of Europe and the international order for years to come.